And from Columbus, Ohio, I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech, aka Mr. Thin Wallets. I'm expecting a lot of purchases to be made this coming week. Apple's got some event happening, and I just had to look at my wallets, make sure my checking and my savings are set up the right way. My checking, make sure the money out of savings is moving into the checking. Get that all ready because I may be emptying the clip as far as purchases I may be making this week due to the upcoming Apple event. So I had to make sure my money's right.
So how many of these Johns you gonna end up purchasing?
So it depends. Well, let me not say that. I'm lying. It don't depend. For those who don't know, I guess we could go right into the show because you got the Apple event stuff at the top here.
Oh yeah, I moved it up top.
Okay, so for those who don't know, Apple has finally announced their September event. The September event is normally when Apple announces their latest generation iPhone. They announce their next generation Apple Watch, and maybe a slew of other things. A lot of the stuff is rumor right now. Of course, none of it's official, but I mean, it's a safe bet to say at least new iPhones are going to come out. The next generation or the upcoming name for the iPhone is the iPhone 15. So you can expect at least an iPhone 15, an iPhone 15 Plus or Pro Plus, and then an iPhone 15 Pro, and then an iPhone 15 Pro Max. In addition to that, the next Apple Watch is up is Apple Watch Series 9. And then if the rumors are true, word on the street is they're going to announce the second generation of the Apple Watch Ultra. That is the big one with the action button and the compass and the GPS and the hiker's joint to where, half of the people won't use nearly 90% or maybe
I
not
still
even
want one of
10%.
those, but it's just so expensive. I cannot justify that
So
purchase.
it is. But for me personally, and to answer your question, Rob, I didn't get the Apple Watch Ultra first generation because again, I thought it was a little too big. I'm not a big watch dude. I'm not a big wrist dude. I don't have big wrists, literally. So I thought the Apple Watch Ultra, the first generation, was kind of big and it had a lot of functionality that I just was flat out not going to use. But looking back at what I did purchase, for those watching, this is the Apple Watch Series 8. And I end up buying the stainless steel version. There's an aluminum, and then there's a stainless steel, and then there's whatever
I think
the
they had
top.
titanium, right?
Yeah. So I purchased the Apple Watch Series 8 stainless steel. The reason why I do that is because it's scratch resistant, and the case surrounding is stainless steel, so it's less likely to be scratched up, nicked, things of that nature. Well, once I added it up, the price for the Series 8 and then the band that I purchased, not this one, I purchased another band at the time of purchasing, it was about the same price as the entry level Apple Watch Ultra. So I was like, price,
Could have went ahead on.
yeah, but, and I'm still in the air about this Apple Watch Ultra. The only thing that may tip me over to purchasing it is if they come out with a space gray or a space black or a whatever Apple calls black. Because normally I get all my watch, get my phone, I get it the black version. And right now, the Apple Watch Ultra, the first generation, came out with that silver color. And I was like, it don't even match anyway. But now, word on the street is if they come out with this Apple Watch Ultra 2, which will be about the same as last year, but it come out with like a dark titanium color. I think titanium is what Apple is referring to as black this year. I'm not sure. We'll find out tomorrow. But all that to say, you can guarantee that a new phone will be announced. A new watch will be announced. So they'll come out with the Series 9 and the Apple Watch Ultra 2. Of course, the big thing that everybody's heard about is, will the iPhone 15 come USB-C, which is what most of the other small electronics, most of the keyboards, mouse, headphones, a lot of those small portable speakers. Most of that stuff is already switched over to USB-C. So they're guessing Apple is going to do the same with the phone. But in addition to that, they're also saying, word on the street, again, nothing official, but they're saying the AirPods, the next generation AirPods, they'll either come with, or you'll have the option to upgrade your current AirPods to a USB-C case. Because right now the little case is Lightning.
It's still Lightning, yeah.
Right. So they're saying rumors are that the latest generation
upgrade to USB-C.
Well,
so it's
remember-
going to cost more money
well
to buy a USB-C case.
Oh yeah, you got to buy that case.
allegedly USB-C is faster charging and faster data transfer speeds. So technically you could say going from Lightning to USB-C is a upgrade when you put in those features.
Apple needs to stop.
But yeah, Apple gonna get paid regardless.
No, this is Apple
needs
being
to
Apple.
stop.
Apple is
Yeah,
gonna
that's
make
crazy.
they gonna make their dollar no matter
Mhm.
what. They gonna make their dollar no matter what. So it's like, okay, we got to do this. Can we, let's see this. Can we actually get folks who already have these AirPods and they're charging them just fine with Lightning? Can we get them to actually say, "Ooh, there's a new case that does exactly what my old case does, except for instead of doing it with Lightning, it does it with USB," and that is the reason that they should upgrade.
That's that bullshit.
Well, who's got two thumbs and is one of those guys? This guy, right? Well, I don't know. So here's the conundrum, right? I never plug my AirPods up. I always have a MagSafe or a wireless charging pad that they sit on at my nightstand and at my desk when I'm at work. I really don't never plug them up. So if you wanted to make that argument, you could, talking to myself like we in third person, Terrance, you really don't charge up the AirPods right now. So why do you need to pay for the case when you're never going to charge it up? Yeah, it's very good. It's a very good argument, Terrance. When Friday comes, I'll probably still end up upgrading the case.
So here's the thing. Both of you have said need. Steph, you said justify. Y'all don't need or justify anything. It's like because you want them.
Like, I'm thinking though, the Ultra Series 1 may go on sale. So this
absolutely.
could be a good opportunity to pick that up. However, I would not want that in silver. And you're telling me silver is the only option for the Series 1.
For the Series 1, there was only one.
There was only
no different colors.
So then I probably wouldn't get that because I mean I have like a SE in the Series 7. Whenever I think it was when the 7s were out, I got the cheap one basically. So I have like a SE. It might have been the 8s, but it was probably the 7s. But regardless, it was the SE, so it was the little cheap one. So I could see myself upgrading my watch this go round. And if I'm gonna do it, then I would want to do it way big, so to speak, and get an Ultra. But I doubt that I would want to pay that much money even for a previous version and get a silver one. I would definitely want something in I have a rose gold. The SD that I have right now is in the rose gold, which I would want to keep something like that. Or I could see like you said, the dark titanium or a stainless steel or something like that. So I probably wouldn't get that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really ready for a phone yet. I only get every other phone. And I have the 14, so I probably won't be getting this phone this go round. So I probably won't be getting anything. I actually am, and I don't know if I talked about it with y'all, but I am getting a MacBook Air. I actually am finally getting a 15-inch. I'm getting that midnight blue, Jawn. I already got it all picked out, specs and everything. I'm upgrading because I have had so many problems editing on this PC that I'm on right now, doing this podcast, talking to y'all. it has been a trash experience editing on this PC recently, like just in the last 3 or 4 months. And I've lost work, and it has just made my life a living hell editing video on this PC recently. And I can't do it anymore. It's costing me money now in the loss of productivity that I've had between this PC, this desktop, and my laptop. I know my laptop's trash. I wouldn't even like move to the laptop to do the work on the laptop because I know the laptop's trash. So I'm not even going there. So I am gonna invest in a MacBook Air like within the next 30 days. Just when I'm going on. Yeah, I'm going on travel. I was gonna do it 2 weeks ago, but I just got busy, and I'm like, I'm going on travel actually tomorrow. I'm on a plane tomorrow. So I'm like, let me just use this laptop now, do what I need to do on travel. But when I get back, like I'm headed to the Apple store, like literally as soon as I get back, because I just can't keep losing productivity like I'm doing. So I'm doing that. But as far as everything coming out tomorrow in the announcement, I don't know that there's anything coming out tomorrow that I have to have.
Okay. Word of advice for your MacBook Air. Word of advice: spend as much money as you can to get as much storage as you can afford.
I want like I'm getting 2 terabytes. I'm getting like the 256 RAM. Like I'm getting everything. I'm getting everything I can. Yeah.
And then the second advice. I just purchased a MacBook Air for my wife maybe less than a month ago, and I bought a refurbished one.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't have 2 terabytes. It had 512 gigs for her.
I don't like
gigs of
carrying
RAM.
external storage.
Well, so the reason why I'm saying it's not because of the storage.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm saying is because you can probably go back. I don't know how you just hear me out here.
Okay.
You could probably get a deal on an M1 MacBook Air, which is what I got my wife. And I only paid like $850 for it. So it was 2020 when it came out. It's the M1. So it's a generation as far as the silicon, because right now they're M2 MacBook Airs. And I'm pretty sure this time next year, we'll be talking about M3s, if not sooner. Right. But if you don't mind, you may be able to save you a nice chunk of change if you go find a M1 MacBook Air. Now that's going to take a little bit more work. You got to do a bit more research. You got to cross your fingers.
I'm such a snob about refurbished though.
Right. Well, me too. That's why I get my stuff new. I get my kids and my wife. They get the old joints.
For stuff like that. like some stuff I can drive a used car. I can't do a refurbished computer. I just can't do it. I can't. I need to peel that plastic. I need to crack open and like all of that. I can't.
It's definitely an experience.
I know Stephanie is gonna have content coming from the unboxing of her new laptop.
Too, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like I can't. Yeah.
So it's for work. It's for the people. It's for work and for the people.
A phone, like tech. It's very, very rare I'm gonna do refurbished electronics. Like that's one of the things I can shop thrift stores for clothes, like all of that. But refurbished electronics, I'm a snob when it comes to that. I'm sorry, not sorry. I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it.
So your old PC laptop, it was getting long in the tooth anyway, wasn't it? Because I think yours was like
well, I take that back. It was bad right out the gate. Something I think I just got a lemon. I'm a refrain from saying the brand, just because I don't need nobody coming at me with a lawsuit. But it was I was having problems with it literally from jump when I bought it. There was something going on with it overheating. I literally had the guy come out and replace the fan. I sent it back and I sent it back. They replaced the fan. I had a guy come out. Like I was just having problems with it literally from the time I bought it. And they did everything they could short of replacing it, because they just didn't want to replace it. And once I sent it back and they sent it back to me, it's been okay, but it's like a car that's been in an accident. It's not the same, but it's it's to their standards, it's okay. So they won't give me a new one. So I'm like, you know what I mean? It's but I know it's been damaged. So I'm kind of like, I don't even want to deal with it anymore. But I know I can't get rid of it because they won't give me a new one. So I'm just like, I'm getting a MacBook Air, and that's pretty much the end of it.
You'll be I think you'll enjoy it. Real fast, what editing software do you use?
Premiere Pro.
Okay, yeah, so you can use that on the Mac as well. So, all right,
Yeah.
well, you have to definitely come back and give
I
us
am. I'm
your.
excited. I'm looking forward to it. I'm just like, I just looking forward to just not having the headache anymore. Cause I mean, I was doing work for this trip that I'm going on tomorrow, and shit was crashing, and I'm just like, I just don't have time for it. Like it
Yeah,
just, I can't do it anymore. I just cannot do it.
that's bad enough when it's just the PC you got at the house, but it's when you're using it for work.
Yeah,
that's costing you money because it's costing you
is.
time. You got to go do stuff twice. So no,
It
so
is.
we get it.
Time
We
is
get
money, and I
it.
can't do it no more.
I did want to throw this out there. There was some Apple news that came out. iOS 16.6.1 came out last week. And even though there's a new phone, there's going to be a new operating system coming out. If you've got 16.6, you need to upgrade to this because there were 2 0-day exploits that not only were they 0-day, they were also 0-click. So literally somebody could send you a message, and if you just get the message on your iPhone with 16.6, you could be subject to getting that some spyware on there where they can do some pretty nasty stuff. So you definitely want to go and update your phone to Android, to iOS 16.6.1. This pretty important update that Apple put out last week. Even though there's new stuff coming out, you don't want to wait on that one if you haven't already done it.
Yeah, it seems like most Apple updates in the past 2 or 3 months have been go do these right now. Go do these right now. Again, I don't know if we talked about this on this show, but my other podcast, we talked pretty intensive with Apple. And one of the features that Apple announced almost maybe 2 years ago, knocking on 2 years ago, is their rapid security response updates. And what those rapid security response updates are supposed to do is any updates, security critical, actively exploited, updates, Apple would automatically push those updates to devices without us having to manually go check for updates, without us having to manually update the iOS. They would just put out these patches, rapid security patches. Ever since then, I think they've only used it like one time, but now they are back to, well, I don't want to say back to, but it seems like they're really not using that feature. It seems like they are continuing rather to update the iOS versioning like 16.6.1 instead of it being whatever the current version is. And then they push out a rapid security response, and then they tell you, same way they tell you, with the regular OS update, it does this, it does that, and the third. But this rapid security response is supposed to be quicker, and it's supposed to be automatically pushed. And then they just tell you, hey, we had to update whatever because it was causing issues with that. But for whatever reason, since they rolled it out, they really don't use it that much. And I'm curious as to why Apple doesn't use that. Is it because at this my only guess is at the same time they're pushing out a security exploited update, they're also releasing or fixing or updating a feature. So when they fix a feature, then they also are patching a security exploit. They just roll that into the one general iOS update versus having a separate rapid security response. That's the only thing I can think of. But all that to say, for the past couple of months, Apple has been, hey, you got to do this. And I'm like, don't y'all got a feature that already does that to where you don't have to tell me to go or beg me to go update? It just automatically patches it. But I guess it's not the case.
I'm going to just go out on a limb and guess that Apple will get less heat by letting you know that, hey, here is a security update. You need to go install this right now right fast. Go do it right now. They take less heat from doing that and knowing that there are going to be people who just aren't going to do it and they have to keep reminding them than you automatically updated somebody's phone for them. I think they take more heat from the latter. So unless it is something that is so critical that is going to ultimately, okay, the heat from not doing this is going to be less than the heat that we'll get from doing it. I think that they actually weigh those decisions. And that's probably why you haven't seen it, because to automatically update somebody's stuff, that is a big step. Because Terrance, I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, they weren't asking you if you wanted to update. It was they could push an update out and your stuff is just now updated.
Right.
Is that
but
correct?
I think I used update, and maybe I should have used the word patch. Maybe that's
Okay.
a little bit different than an update. My assumption was these rapid security response patches were different than a upgrade or an update. When a new feature, they've added some feature, they've taken a feature away, whatever the case may be. I assumed that it was a difference. Therefore, they could get away with just patching your phone when it's just a
doing the
patch. It ain't really an
Yeah.
update or an upgrade. That's my guess. I'm only guessing.
Yeah. So guys, I wanted to get your take on this, and I want to find out: are either of you surprised that it looks like, according to this leaked Google spreadsheet, that Black employees at Google earn on average $20,000 less than their white colleagues?
Shocker.
Are you shocked? Are you surprised? Or are you more like, is that all? is that it? Is actually that close?
I'm surprised it's that little, honestly.
Jeez.
I'm mad
Data
that
covers,
the
it
woman who
ain't
responded is gaslighting us like we don't know what it is, basically.
And
That's
not
what I'm
only
mad
that,
about.
it's not just, the person that takes out the trash or the cafeteria people or the, plumbers or anything at work at Google. These are the software engineers, the business analysts, salespeople, and legal counsel roles. So these are not just random people that, just happen to work at Google. These are the people at Google's like, all right, these is our cream of the crop. These are shining stars. These are people that make all the magic happen at Google. And apparently not all magic is compensated equally, I guess.
Like I said, none of us are shocked by it, but I would say Google, your response to this, as you were saying, Stephanie, is kind of trash, because
That's what I'm saying.
they're both saying that we don't know what you're talking about. And also, if we're talking about what you think you're talking about, well, we were right in the reasons why we actually do, why we do this. And they wanted to say things like, oh, well, we have to make distinctions between where people live, because you could have some developers that live in San Francisco and you could have other developers that live someplace like Atlanta. And my question is, but what about the white folks in Atlanta that make more? And what about the Black folks in San Francisco that make less? Oh, well, these are unofficial numbers. This is self-reporting. We're not even sure. These are old numbers. Like last year wasn't just 9 months ago.
And then,
you know what I'm saying?
So then they say another response was, we run a rigorous pay equity analysis every year to make sure salaries, bonuses, and equity awards are fair. We run a equity analysis, not we've contracted a third party group
To
to
audit, to make sure that it's fair.
to confirm that we our pay and equity is fair. So okay, right, okay, that's me saying, oh yeah, sure.
Differences were significant. It's especially the differences in equity. So $20,000. When you look at that over the course of a year, might not make that much difference. When you kind of average that out, you take taxes out, all the rest of that stuff. But when you look at like equity, so Black software engineers totaled 150 71,500, 70,000 in equity and bonuses. So like there was, 70,000 versus 99,000 in equity, 27,000 versus 31,000 in bonuses. Like that's a big difference. These are like quality of life differences. When you start looking at the differences in salary, and it's just like you're changing people's lives or preventing somebody from having a different quality of life by how you're
based on their
paying them
experience.
here. You know what I mean? These people are having different life experiences because they're not making the same amount of money that somebody else might be making at the company for doing the same work, for sitting in across the same cubicle, as somebody else doing the same exact work, but having a completely different quality of life as that person because they're making so much less money. And it's just like that's just crazy. Like, how do you justify that? Like, honestly, like how could you possibly justify that? Because it's still going on. Forget what they lying about and how they trying to, say it was outdated, whatever. There are companies that are still doing this. And I would really just love to hear what these people could possibly say that would justify it, because they'll try to say, well, this person went to this school, and they'll use this schools that they went to, and the fact that this person graduated from Stanford. I'm like, but they're still doing the same work. At this point, we're sitting in the same office, in the same cubicle, doing the same exact work. We got hired to do the same job at the same level. We came in at the same time. Everything's the same. So how are you justifying paying these people different amounts of money? You'll never be able to make that make sense to me. You just won't.
There's really two camps, three, I guess, if you really look at the numbers. There's really just two big camps of how companies pay people. Companies pay people fairly, or companies pay people what they can get away with paying people. And unfortunately, most companies are in this, and I'm saying most, I'm not saying all, because there are some companies out there that are really trying to rectify these type of situations, not just, across color lines, but across gender lines and all that kind of stuff. But really, when it comes down to it, is that someone makes more money if they ultimately pay out less in salary. Somebody gets a bonus on that. So that's where it starts initially.
Right.
And then you get into, oh, well, this person went to NCAT as compared to this person who went to Stanford. So, well, yeah, Stanford, that's in Silicon Valley. That's right there in Mountain View, California. We know what it costs to go to school there. Let's make sure we, get those people taken care of. That, or I went to school at Stanford, so I know what, those student loans are going to look like for the person who went to Stanford. That recruiting person, well, we probably need to give this person a little bit more because they got those student loans. We don't know if those things go into it, but it's conceivable that they do. The problem is that when you start to look at it across race, how come it never is the case where, man, look at all these black folks is making way more money than their white counterparts? You never, I don't want to say never is a long time, but I have not in my time on this planet heard of a story that came out or a study that came out and says, you know what, these African Americans at this big giant company that's one of the biggest companies on earth as far as the amount of money that it makes is paying them so much more than it is paying everyone else. We just don't hear those stories.
I will say though,
imagine how big the story would be,
right?
If come to find
you
out
saw a company that all the black folks were getting paid. I will say
this huge
though,
company.
is it because we don't ask for more money?
That's
true.
a whole different conversation.
Is it because we don't go in negotiating and because we just so happy to get the job? Because I will say, I didn't, my first job out of college, I didn't negotiate that salary. I was so happy to see that number on that offer letter because that was more money than I had ever made in my life. And I was like, holy, yeah, I'm making more money than my parents ever made. Like, honestly, it was insane to me that a company would be paying me this much money right out of school. It didn't even occur to me that I might be able to say, well, you know what? Let $5,000 to this. Let me see if I can ask for $5,000 more dollars and get it. You know what
Let
I'm
me get some more
saying?
PTO or something.
Right. Or but a white male graduating probably did look at that offer letter and was like, this is low. You know what I mean? And maybe asked for $5,000 more dollars or $10,000 more dollars. And so over the course of a career, when you start higher, your salary is going to continue to track higher. You know what I mean? And by the time you get to year 10, it may be exponentially higher. So I'm not justifying what Google has done, because they still need to, maybe try to figure out how to get some parity in there some kind of way. And if you see a trend, you need to fix the trend regardless. You see all your black people ain't making no money, like, fix that shit, period. But I think we as African Americans in the workplace probably need some guidance and some coaching coming out of school on how to negotiate and how to ask for what we deserve and what we're worth, and not be so pressed to just have a job and be so excited to just, like I said, I put myself in that category. I did not negotiate at all. I was hype, and we were all high. I remember the conversations we had coming out of engineering school, and just, we compared amongst each other, like who got the higher offers, and what'd you get, but none of us talked about negotiating. You should, we didn't get together and say we should all go back to those people and ask. None of us should come out of here with less than 50. You know what I mean? And back in the day, that was, if you had gotten 50, you were rich. None of us got that, but we should, none of us said, none of us should leave here with less than 50. None of us should accept less. And had we all banded together and decided that that's what we would accept, we could have been paid. You know what I'm saying? Even though we had phenomenal offers, so maybe that's the thing that's the conversation we need to be having right now. And instead of slamming Google for not paying, for their black employees making 20K less, maybe we need to be having a conversation like, we need to get on these college campuses right now and let these students know, like, these white kids are in classes learning how to negotiate right now. So that's what y'all need to be doing. So when y'all get to y'all career centers and when y'all get to these interviews at the end of y'all senior years, y'all need to know how to go into these interviews and ask for more money and ask for what you deserve. And y'all need to learn how to research what starting salaries are and what they can be and what they should be, and ask for more money. So when y'all get there, y'all not saying, well, damn, how did Brad get 60 and I'm only making 40? You know what I mean? Because I'm positive that's at least a part of this conversation.
Oh, it's definitely a part of it. And I don't want to say that this is even a cultural thing with African Americans. I want to say that this is probably a class thing of where, folks that probably came from from lower middle class and down type incomes at home.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about
money.
money
Thing as well, because women don't do it.
We just don't talk about money. Yeah. And it's almost one of these things to where that completely benefits the organizations that you work for when you have employees that won't, it still is, folks think it is taboo to talk with your coworkers about what you make. Oh, they don't need they ain't none of their business. They don't need to know what I'm making. It ain't none of my business. I don't need to know what they're making. But when you and companies kind of reinforce that, they don't want their employees talking to each other about what they make, because when the employees talk to each other about what they make, then things like this come out. It's like, hey, wait a minute. You and I have the same job. You and I have been working here for the same amount of time. You have gotten way more raises than I've gotten. And you started off making way more than I started off making.
Right.
Why is that? Because you never have those conversations, because once again, that doesn't benefit you to not talk about it. It benefits the company for you not to talk about it, because you're now working in ignorance of not knowing what your peers make.
Right. And so
you were given these ranges, not realizing.
She put that in her comments. She said in her own jobs, she's asked for more money. And because she started low, her salary history was a problem. Because she started low, they're not gonna jump her up exponentially to meet those other people that started off higher. So that's an issue. If you start low, you stay low, and they not going to be like, oh, well, we got to make sure you get up here with everybody else. And that's a problem. So we got to do the work to start high and stay high.
Yeah, and I will say, like I said, it's not all companies that do this. I have personally worked for a company. In fact, I worked for a company that got acquired. The company that got acquired was a very, very, very big company. But one of the things they did was they did a salary review of everyone. And there were a lot of folks that, there's a lot of reasons why you can say that this company did this, but a lot of people got immediate raises when this company purchased everyone, because they wanted everyone to be on the same playing field. If you've been here 7 years and you do this job description, you need to be at this portion of the range. If you are really outside of that port, of the median, in the range, then we need to address it. So there were quite a few folks who ended up getting, I would say, some fairly substantial out of band raises, just because the company that did the acquiring was saying, no, we're not going to have this. We've been doing work for years to try to make sure that we actually are one of those companies that is progressive on compensation, and making sure that we aren't paying, women significantly less than we're paying men, that we aren't paying African-Americans significantly less than we're paying their Asian and white counterparts. We want to try to, be good with that. So we can't acquire you company and not do this. These are some of the things that need to happen.
They got to get people where they need to be. But yeah, that's definitely a conversation that needs to be had on campuses, and especially Black campuses, because we didn't have that conversation. Like I said, and we was all engineers, and we just was, like I said, so happy to just have a job that we didn't even think. I don't know. Maybe some of my friends went back and renegotiated, but I know I didn't, and I know a bunch of my friends didn't, and we probably beat ourselves out of 5 or 10K extra right out the gate. So yeah, go get that money, y'all. Absolutely.
So y'all, we don't talk about stuff that is happening in the European Union all that much, but what's been happening with the DMA, and I'll explain what that is in a moment. And the companies that are now under the Digital Markets Act in the European Union, these things they make a big deal, and it could end up affecting companies here in the United States. So let me just read this setup here. The European Commission recently officially confirmed the companies that fall under the European Union's Digital Markets Act, it's the DMA, as gatekeepers. So a gatekeeper is basically a really big company. You think of the Googles, the Microsofts, the Apples of the world, these big giant companies that sell a lot of stuff to a lot of people. So the DMA aims to keep large companies from imposing unfair conditions on businesses and end users, and ensuring the openness of important digital services. Meta was deemed to be a gatekeeper, and 2 of its messaging platforms, both WhatsApp Messenger and Facebook Messenger, now fall under the purview of the DMA and will have restrictions placed upon them, including having to make themselves interoperable with other messaging systems. So basically what that means is that if you're using something like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp Messenger, they now have to make those interoperable with other platforms. So let's say that someone is using Telegram or someone is using Signal, and Signal says, well, we would like, for our users to be able to talk with folks who are using WhatsApp, because Meta is now a gatekeeper company, and both Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp Messenger fall under this restricted category of gatekeeper application. They have to make this interoperable. What was very interesting is that Apple actively fought and argued to keep iMessage from popping up on that list. And depending on, where you stand, they may have been right for arguing it. They basically are not on this gatekeepers list as far as iMessage is concerned. It's going to be reevaluated. They're going to look at this over the next 5 months to determine whether or not they should be. But because iMessage is not on this gatekeeper list, iMessage will be able to continue, at least for the current time. They will be able to continue running as a complete siloed walled garden, not having to interoperate with anyone else. So I wanted to get you guys' take on this, because one of us, I'm not going to say who, but it's the one that is sitting in the middle, is what I consider to be a green bubble bully.
I'm not a bully.
You just talk about folks who make your text messaging jacked up. But here's my question: is if Apple ends up being, a company that they don't have to adhere to these new rules because they aren't actually a gatekeeper. For those who don't know, iMessage completely dominates in North America. It is the messaging platform here for iPhone users, but most iPhone users around the world don't use iMessage just because there's so many Android users that they have to interoperate with. They, WhatsApp is the biggest platform by far, and then Facebook Messenger is number 2. iMessage is a distant number 3rd to those two.
I would say, go ahead, Terrance.
No, I was going to say, I think there's a difference between interoperate and interact, right? I think that may be the difference, in my opinion, that's that's allowing Apple to stay outside of this DMA gatekeepers. Because, flat out, me, Stephanie, and Robb, we can all interact via SMS. But as far as interoperating, is Apple stopping anybody from using anything else like a WhatsApp, like a Telegram, like a Signal, and define interoperability. If I can text you a message and you can see it and respond back, is that interoperability, or is there more to it?
There's more to it. What the DMA is stating is that if you send someone, if let's say WhatsApp Messenger, you should be able to send a message from someone on WhatsApp Messenger to someone on iMessage, and that actually be able to work. Right now, that is impossible. You cannot send a message from WhatsApp Messenger to someone on iMessage. Apple is completely cool with that. You also cannot send a message from iMessage, or I should say from WhatsApp Messenger to somebody on Signal. Signal is not so cool with that. They both have their own proprietary systems, but Signal is way smaller than WhatsApp. So literally what ends up happening is that you will have people say, well, hey, most of our group is over here on this other platform. You need to install WhatsApp Messenger so you can interoperate with us. Or if you have a lot of people who are using Telegram, in Telegram doesn't work with WhatsApp Messenger. WhatsApp Messenger says, oh, you need to have people install WhatsApp because that's where most of us are. Because WhatsApp is so big, they have to now interoperate with other folks. So what is happening? There is a beta that is out for WhatsApp Messenger currently that they actually have indicators and markers in the beta of, to where they are going to actually allow third-party interoperability between their platform and other stuff. That isn't there yet. It's functionality that's going to come, but they have until, I believe, August of next year, August of 2024, to actually get this stuff done. So my question is, if you now have the WhatsApps of the world that start interoperating with other platforms, you have the Facebook Messengers of the world that interoperate with other platforms. Google is not big enough. They're like iMessage. They're not big enough yet to where they actually fall under this from a Google Messages standpoint, but they are already willing to interoperate with anybody who will, because they are actually, the one company that is using a standard that everyone should ultimately be able to adopt. So they want to see it. My question, once again, is will Apple, will their siloed or will their walled garden stance, will that actually continue to benefit them, or will it actually make it worse? Will people start to say, like they've already done in Europe and other places around the world, it's like, well, I can't really use iMessage because no one on Android can use it, so we need to use something else. Does that actually get worse for them? If all these other platforms work and they don't, will people, actually even start to use them less than they already are? Once again, here it dominates, but everywhere else it really doesn't.
See, I never looked at iMessage as, it's obviously it's a messaging platform, but I looked at it more as a function of the operating system, as opposed to a standalone piece of software. I look at WhatsApp and Telegram as standalone pieces of software that function as messaging platforms. And I kind of look at iMessage as a part of
the
operating system that works with Apple's hardware, that follows an SMS standard, that goes along with smartphone functionality, and those that I just think there's a distinction there, that because you can use, I think Apple will be able to continue to use that as sort of a loophole distinction that gets them, that absolves them of gatekeeper status. I think there's enough of a distinction there that is going to absolve them of gatekeeper status.
Right. And I see where Rob is going with this, right? Since WhatsApp and Signal and Telegram and some of these other ones that are, Facebook got caught under it. And so then now they need to adjust WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger to comply. But I think what you're getting at, Rob, is if everything else other than iMessage is interoperable, will that hurt Apple? Because everybody is eventually going to have to decide, do I use WhatsApp and all these other things as my main mode of messaging? And if more people are doing that, even the people who were previously hell bent on iMessage, if they start to move over to WhatsApp, does that cause problems for Apple to where they need to figure out how to either keep people on iMessage or open up iMessage to, as a third party app, like you mentioned, Stephanie, the similar to Telegram and WhatsApp and things of that nature? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I will say Apple's probably got a long time before they have to think about that.
Yeah, they do.
No, they have potentially 5 months. Potentially 5 months, because what the European Commission has decided to do is they are reevaluating iMessage. Another one they're reevaluating is Bing. So Bing, this is what happened. Bing, Microsoft and Apple both argued, and this is what they said in their arguments, that neither Bing they did this separately and independently of each other, but Apple said that iMessage isn't big enough or important enough for it to actually fall under this regulation, because most iPhone users don't use iMessage, which is absolutely true. They have the ability to, but they don't, because they are really ingrained in using Telegram, really ingrained in using WhatsApp Messenger, really ingrained in using Facebook Messenger. So that's a true statement. Bing, on the other hand, Microsoft saying, well, nobody really uses Bing, even though we include it as part of the operating system and it comes and we try to change the default to it every single opportunity that we have. Nobody is actually doing that. Therefore, we're not important enough or big enough to receive gatekeeper status. What the European Commission decided to do, you know what? We're going to go look at that, and then we will come up with a decision within 5 months. Still giving those two companies enough time to adjust if they need to meet that August deadline next year when these things go into effect. So like I said, when I really started thinking about this is like, it's like right now, because you have to go and install WhatsApp Messenger, or you've got to go install, Facebook Messenger, or you have to go and install Signal, or you have to go and install Telegram. You've got to do all of these different platforms depending on where your people are. That actually is a reason to use iMessage, because if you just buy an iPhone, it just simply works. But the question becomes, if everybody now is interoperating with each other, does that advantage still there? Because now you already kind of are forcing people to use iMessage, but you really are forcing them to use something else that can talk with other platforms, and you can see iMessage usage go down. Maybe not here, but go down everywhere else. So I'm just kind of wondering, how will Apple play that? Because I would have to guess that Apple wants to dominate with iMessage everywhere, not just here in the United States. I mean, there's billions of people who are using iPhones, not so much when it comes to iMessage. I believe there's just over 1 billion, active users, like monthly active users of iMessage. When you start to look at, Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp Messenger, they more than double it. So that is something that I think Apple has to be thinking. At least I would think that they're thinking about it. And I just wonder, how they're going to play this. Do they want to get this? Or, they probably definitely do not want to fall under the gatekeeper status.
Well, they want.
But will you see them actually still? Yeah.
But I don't think this helps them though. Like forcing them to become more interoperable helps them necessarily. If there weren't that many people using iMessage now, making more options available to those people won't make I don't think more people use iMessage if it becomes more interoperable. I think more people use what they've already been using. And WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger just become more popular. I don't think I don't think more people use iMessage because iMessage becomes more available, honestly. And more in our, if that makes any sense.
No, that
Like,
absolutely makes sense.
I
That's
don't
why I was
think more
asking the
people
question.
use it more. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know that they have the incentive to go down that road necessarily, because these people say so. So I think Apple fights to not get that gatekeeper status, and I think they'll probably get it, or probably won't get that designation. I don't see it happening, at least not anytime soon.
What do you think, Terrance?
No. And I don't even think Apple, they could say, all right, iMessage is free for iPhone users. If you want to download the iMessage app to be for Android or for whatever case may be, pay $5. I don't even think Apple is going to do that. Of course, as a company, they're all worried about the bottom line, and that $3 per user could, run up they, profits even more. But again, I think Apple, come hell or high water, is going to argue, like Stephanie mentioned, that we're not important enough for y'all to be bothering us with this gatekeeper thing, because everybody else is already using what everybody else is already going to use, especially everywhere else other than America, because iMessage is big here. But any place else, anytime you step off of, the mainland and Alaska and Hawaii, and maybe even Alaska and Hawaii, you automatically got to switch to WhatsApp automatically. So, Apple, I think, is going to stay hold to that. We ain't that important.
They ain't doing it. They ain't doing it. Apple, they're not going down without a fight. I'll put it that way. They're not gonna.
Oh, they definitely are. Like, so they fought tooth and nail. They definitely argued to keep themselves out of this classification of gatekeeper, and it at least initially worked. So, but like I said, I'm just thinking out the long game, just wondering how this is ultimately going to play out for them. So, y'all, I'm looking at the clock. We are getting close to the top of the hour, and we have a spotlight this week. And this spotlight's a little different than what we normally do. So, I want to go ahead and pull it up before I read it. Let me bring this up on stage here. And we're going to be talking about Elise Smith. So let me pull my notes up here. So this week's spotlight is a little different than the ones we usually do, where we grab a figure from history that has done great things in technology or computing. This week, we're going to talk about someone who's currently doing the work in the company they're doing it at. We're showcasing Elise Smith, who co-founded Praxis Labs, a DEI learning platform, in 2019. At $18.7 million in venture capital to date, Smith may be the most funded Black or Latina woman of over 750 tracked, according to Digital Undivided's Project Diane, a biannual report on funding for Latina and Black entrepreneurs in technology. We mention the amount of funding Praxis has received because it is notable, but we do not want to tokenize its coverage because the company is doing some pretty impressive work with virtual reality used for justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion training, and stands out in its own light, hence the level of funding that it has received. In a 2022 press release, Smith said, "Our society is more segregated than ever, and the workplace is most often the most diverse space that we enter, where we encounter differences of backgrounds and perspectives. We want to help employees better work across those differences to advance inclusion and belonging in their teams through policies, practices, products, and services that produce equitable outcomes." We should also note that Praxis's other co-founder, Heather Shin, is also a woman of color, and we should should also note some of the companies that Praxis is working with, companies like eBay, Amazon, Google, Target, Etsy, ServiceNow, and Uber. Once again, this week's spotlight is on Elise Smith and Praxis Labs. We will definitely keep an eye on her and her company in the future. So, Stephanie, I was with you. This is one that we probably should talk about because there is an issue of Black women in particular not getting venture backed. It is, right. When we say that she's the most, is $18.7 million, almost $19 million. That is laughable when you think about the amount of money that some of these founders get. But she is at the top of the list. But one of the things that we have to be careful with is that, founders like herself, they don't want to be tokenized to where the only reason you're talking about their company is because she's a black woman and they got money when that doesn't normally happen. The technology that her company has is quite impressive, which is why she's venture backed in the first place. And we need to actually lean in and talk about the reasons why you should be backing these companies as compared to who is ultimately at the helm of them.
Okay, I get that. But, and this may sound, counterintuitive coming from me. I read that article and I just felt like there was a lot of complaining going on. And if they weren't getting any press, then we would be complaining about that. And it's just like, it really started feeling like as I'm going through, because there were, a lot of women like, yeah, I don't want you to just talk about the money I raised, and I don't want you to just talk. First of all, this is the Valley. That's all they talk about.
That's all they do.
Is who raised money and how much. That's literally all they talk about. It's a big game to them white boys out there. Is how much money you can raise, how fast, how quick you can exit, how much you sold for. That's it. That's the whole point. So what are you even doing if you're not talking about how much money you raised? You know what I mean? And so like it really started to get like I was like, like all of the women in the article were just like, I don't want to keep talking about how much money I raised, because now we're getting into exceptionalism, and now we're getting into, and now you're not talking about my product. And I've not read an article ever talking about how much money a Black person has raised, number one, without talking about the fact that Black people don't raise enough money, especially Black women. That's never not been mentioned, in addition to the fact that this person is the exception and we don't give Black founders enough money. So that's always been in as a part of the article, as a caveat to the article. And then it's regardless if it's just an article, if the purpose of the article was to talk about, wow, look how much money this person's raised, you're still getting the press. It's still the PR. You're still getting the spotlight for your company. People are still going to learn about what your company. No article ever just says she raised $18 million, the end. They still talk about what your company does and the technology and the great thing, the problem your company solved. You're always going to learn about the company. You know what I mean? So what is the problem that you also know that you raised the money? Like I on one hand, I can kind of see what the beef is, because that's probably all anybody ever wants to talk about. And that's probably what they lead with. And wow, you raised $18 million. And maybe you feel like you're not getting enough shine for what you built. And this is your baby, and you put all this blood, sweat, and tears into it. And everybody only wants to talk about the $18 million. However, this is the game. Like, this is what it is. You know what I mean? And just, what do you want to do? Do you not want to get, do you want to get $18 million back? Because you can do that too. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. You either want the $18 million and you want to be able to get out here and raise this money and build a successful company, or you don't. Or you want to be one of those many Black founders that never get any money. Like you, the further I read into that article, the more irked I got, because it was just like, what is really the problem here? Like it seems like a problem looking for a solution, and it felt like as somebody who's never raised any money, I don't know, and maybe somebody needs to educate me on this, and I'm happy to listen to whoever can tell me if I'm way off base with this. But I was just like, what is your problem? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what really is your problem? And maybe one of y'all know and can explain it to me, but I just didn't understand what the problem was, honestly.
Well, I get it, but like you mentioned earlier, you have to play the game. And that's the game.
The game is fundraising. Like, literally the entire point of being a startup is raising. That's literally all you do is raise money. That is the point of a startup, is to raise money.
Yeah. So
Literally.
you got to play the game. I think what she's trying to relay is that when all you talk about is money, nobody ever talks about the quality. But that's not, and that could be true for companies in general, right? I don't think it's specific to Black people or Black women. And what I mean by that is that's all they talk about is money for everybody. So, yeah, they're using the minority or person of color or Black founder or whatever as the vehicle for which you got money versus somebody else. It could be nepotism. For somebody else, it could be the old boy network. Now, nobody ever outwardly says, well, they just got money because they parents were, bought a library or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Nobody, but we know that's the case. So, everybody's out here making money, or everybody's out here trying to raise money however they can get it. So out to her, like you mentioned, I would say don't necessarily, one and one are not the same. Just because they say you're making money, you are raising money because you're this special person, special meaning Black, minority of color, however she identifies, doesn't automatically mean that you really are not good at what you do. Your company is not good. Your company is not doing dope things, because I think that's how she's saying it. Basically what she's saying is, and she mentions here, just because I raise money doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean anything. It's about what I do with it. True. But that's for everybody too.
But you got to
That's
get it.
not,
You got to
that's
get it
not
first.
just for you. You raise the money, but you got to do something with it, or unless you're going to be in the news.
That was one of the other women they quoted that was also tired of always talking about her funding. And it's just like I said, I mean, I don't know. What's your take, Rob? Because I'm still trying to find the problem.
I see the point. I see the point that's being made. And there are spectrums. There were some folks that were quoted in, because there's, I pulled this together from multiple articles. There are some folks who are, I won't even talk to you if all you want to talk to about, I'm a Black woman and I got this amount of money. If that's the conversation, I'll pass. And then you have, others who are like her, well, I want to have the conversation with you, but we have to talk about my company as well. I can see both sides of it because, Stephanie, to just give you a counterpoint, there are articles to where this Black woman got $1.6 million in funding for a company, and they never even talk about what the company does. All they talked about was it was a Black woman that got it, and that's why it was spotlighted or showcased.
Right.
What Ms. Smith is saying is that if you're going to talk to, if you're going to talk to me about this, because I may be, the Black woman who has gotten the most money in venture capital, according to this list. If you're going to talk to me because of that, you also are going to talk to me about what my company does. But
then I've also seen just the blurbs where that's all they talk about,
general,
so-and-so company, like a Crunchbase rundown. So-and-so company's got a Series A led by so-and-so where they rate and that's all. That's the Valley. That's what they do.
That is definitely part of it. But like I said, where I see the other part, where I see the other side of it is that, that's what a Crunchbase does. That's not what Rolling Stone does. That's not what, these other type of the reason you are talking to me is because I am a Black woman that's got a lot of money. At least ask me about the company that I got the money for.
Right.
I can understand it because I would say, if I were ever going to try to get, funding, because it is abysmal squared for Black women, but it's bad for black, people in general.
Right.
So I can see, Black men saying the same thing. It's like, okay, I will do this expose, but can you at least ask me some questions about what my company does other than the fact that I am a Black man that got money
got the money,
when
right.
Black men and Black women generally don't get it. So I see both sides of it. I see the point that they're making. And, I know that I personally, I would start to feel some kind of way. It's like, all you want to do is talk to me about, because I'm on this list and I got this money. You ain't even asked me about what my company is.
Right.
Talking about my company is what ultimately allows me to get more money. Let's talk about the things that we're doing, because being Black and having gotten the bag, and we're not, I really don't even want to say gotten the bag, because we're talking about $18.7 million in 2 rounds.
For real.
That ain't even nothing.
It's a drop in the bucket.
That is, this is just a little drop, but it is significant. We need to talk about it, because like, oh wow, here's a Black woman whose company was stellar enough. Her and with her, her co-founder, it was stellar enough that they were able to get, a significant amount of money compared to what other Black women, or Latino women are able to get. So I get both sides of it, but I can definitely understand why you would have these founders feeling some kind of way about it. It's like, can you at least ask me what my company does? Because I went and read a couple of these other exposés. At no point did they ever even talk about what it's like. It's a DEI company. That's the only thing you talked about from a company standpoint. Crunchbase is not even talking about that. It's like, this company got this amount of money. Here's the founder, and here's the roadshow that they're on trying to get more. That's what you're going to get from there. These are, like I said, this is when you're showing up in Ebony, when you're showing up in, Enterprise, when you're showing up in these other magazines, to where they are going a little deeper than that, but it's only about you getting the money, not about the company that you got the money for. And I'll just leave it at that.
All right. I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. They need better.
So
PR.
y'all, we are at the end of the show, and we did not do any CTAs at the beginning. So I want to give everyone the opportunity to hear about our patrons. So we didn't have any new patrons this week, but we did get a raise. So Drew moved from a monthly subscriber of the Tech Jawn. If you can head over to patreon.com/Tech Jawn. He moved from a monthly subscriber to a yearly subscriber. That was something that we turned on probably 3 or 4 months ago. So if anyone is thinking that you'd rather, do one payment a year as compared to paying every month, that's something that is available to you. But in doing so, Drew gave us a significant bump in what he is donating to the show. So I want to make sure that we gave Drew a shout out for giving us that raise, in the form of that one time a year payment. So once again, y'all, in order to become a patron of the Tech Jawn, you want to head over to patreon.com/the Tech Jawn. Over there, we've got multiple tiers, any one of which gets you access to our live stream and our after party. And a couple of those tiers actually get you access to an ad-free stream. So you can listen to the podcast without having those injected ads in the middle, the beginning, and the end. So once again, head over to patreon.com/the Tech Jawn, the Tech JAWN. So with that, Tech Life Steph, why don't you tell the folks how they can get at you?
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph. Oh, and I would be remiss. I just got them fresh off the press today. The second edition of my book is out today. It has a new foreword and a bonus section included as well. So there's new content in the book. Don't let your digital footprint kick you in the butt. You can find it at Amazon. So check it out. Follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph, and check out StephanieHumphrey.com.
All right. And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH. In addition to that, like I mentioned at the top of the show, the latest Apple September event will be September the 12th. So if you're listening to this, you're probably not, because you're too busy watching the actual Apple event. But me and my co-host, Nika Montford from the Snob OS podcast, where we talk all things Apple, will actually be on DTNS tomorrow, Daily Tech News Show, to talk about the recap of the Apple event. For those who don't know, the Apple event is around 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, lasts about an hour, a little bit over. And then shortly thereafter, Daily Tech News Show goes on and kind of recaps everything that Apple announced, gives our opinions, things of that nature. So myself and Nika Montford, we will actually be on that show tomorrow. So all that to say, if you are around tomorrow, definitely check us out on Daily Tech News Show. And then, of course, on Wednesday, we will record our show to where it airs on Friday to get all the news about the latest that Apple announced.
Word.
Yeah, Daily Tech News Show. That's a good show. I know a co-host that is on that show multiple times a week. So we'll look forward to your coverage, you and Nika's coverage there. And folks, I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things, and we are also at the Tech Jawn on all the things. So until we meet in a week's time, peace.
Peace.
Peace.